Today, we will talk about differences in culture. This chapter examines how cultural differences across and within countries affect international business operations, transactions, and strategies. The main theme is the importance of cross-cultural literacy, understanding cultural variations to succeed in global business. Even in today's interconnected world, deep cultural differences persist, shaping national value systems and influencing business practices. The chapter explores how culture can impact the benefits, costs, and risks of doing business. For instance, Japan's cultural factors contributed to its economic rise by lowering business costs, while class divisions in Britain increased costs due to industrial disputes. Culture is not static and changes over time, such as the weakening of class distinctions in Britain. Additionally, multinational corporations can influence cultural change, as seen with companies like McDonald's altering dining habits in different countries. Scholars have long debated the definition of culture, with various interpretations emerging over time. In the 1870s, Edward Tyler defined culture as a complex whole encompassing knowledge, beliefs, art, and customs. Geert Hofstede later described culture as the collective programming of the mind that differentiates human groups, focusing on shared values as central to culture. Sociologists C.V. Neimanworth and Robert Weber also viewed culture as a system of ideas that shape a design for living. This text adopts the view of culture as a system of values and norms shared by a group, which guide behavior and create a framework for living. Values represent a group's shared beliefs about what is good and desirable, while norms dictate appropriate behavior. Societies are groups that share these values and norms, but a society may not always align with a country's borders. For instance, Scandinavian countries are often considered culturally unified, implying that a product favored in one country is likely to be well received in others in the region. Values form the bedrock of a culture. Values provide the context within which a society's norms are established and justified. They may include a society's attitudes toward concepts such as individual freedom, democracy, truth, justice, honesty, loyalty, social obligations, collective responsibility, gender, love, sex, marriage, and more. Values are not merely abstract concepts, they are imbued with significant emotional significance. People often argue, fight, and even sacrifice their lives over values they hold dear, such as freedom. Freedom and security frequently serve as core justifications for the political leadership in many developed nations, like the United States, to explain their country's involvement in various parts of the world. Values are also mirrored in a society's economic systems. For instance, democratic free market capitalism, as discussed in Chapter 2, reflects a philosophical value system that prioritizes individual freedom. Norms, which govern behavior in a society, can be divided into two categories: folkways and mores. Folkways are everyday conventions with little moral significance, such as dress codes or social manners. Violating folkways typically results in being seen as rude or eccentric, but rarely leads to severe consequences. For example, in Japan, business etiquette involves respectfully exchanging business cards, and not following these rituals is considered impolite, though not deeply offensive. Mores, on the other hand, carry greater moral significance and are essential to societal functioning. Violating mores can lead to serious consequences, including legal action. Mores often vary across cultures. For instance, moderate alcohol consumption is widely accepted in the US, but is strictly prohibited and punishable by law in Saudi Arabia. Over time, however, some societies become more tolerant of outsiders not adhering to their mores, as long as the behaviors are not overly visible. A society is defined as a group of people sharing common values and norms, or a common culture. However, there is no strict alignment between a society and a nation-state, which is a political creation. Nation-states may contain one culture or several subcultures. For example, while France embodies French culture, Canada has both Anglo and French-speaking Québécois cultures, as well as indigenous cultures. Similarly, African and Indian nations contain various cultural groups, sometimes leading to tensions, as seen in the Rwandan civil war between Tutsis and Hutus in the 1990s. Cultures can also span multiple nations, as with the Scandinavian countries or Islamic societies across the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. This has led some scholars to argue that businesses should focus on culturally similar regions rather than targeting individual countries. Within nations, multiple subcultures exist. For example, the United States has diverse groups such as African American, Latinx, and American Indian cultures, making it difficult to describe the nation with a single culture. Globalization has increased international business relationships, but not necessarily cultural understanding, making cultural awareness essential for business people to avoid violating norms or mores. Culture remains a complex, multi-layered phenomenon that requires careful consideration in international business. Cultural values and norms develop gradually over time, influenced by several factors such as political and economic philosophies, social structure, religion, language, and education. These influences shape behaviors and ways of living, which eventually become ingrained in daily practices and form a culture. For example, the authoritarian, collectivist culture of North Korea fosters values around control and collective responsibility, contrasting with the US, where personal freedom and individualism are central due to its political and economic philosophies. The relationship between culture and its influences is reciprocal. While social structure, religion, and other factors shape cultural values and norms, these values and norms in turn can influence the very institutions they emerge from. Okay, social structure. Social structure refers to the fundamental organization of a society, encompassing its values, norms, and relationships. It dictates how individuals, groups, and entities interact within that society. Two critical dimensions in understanding social structures are the emphasis on the individual versus the group, and the degree of social stratification within a society. Western societies typically prioritize individualism, while non-Western societies often place more importance on groups. Socially stratified societies like India have limited mobility between classes, whereas societies with lower stratification like the United States exhibit higher interstrata mobility. A group is an association of individuals with a shared sense of identity who interact based on common expectations. Human social life revolves around group participation, whether through families, work, social or recreational groups. Social media has expanded group influence, impacting consumer behavior by promoting brands through group dynamics. While all societies have groups, the importance placed on individual versus group identity varies. In many Western societies, individualism is key, with individuals valued for personal achievements, often reflected in business through concepts like star scientists and personal branding. This emphasis on individual performance fuels entrepreneurship and innovation, especially in the US, where individualism has driven the creation of new products and industries. However, group-oriented cultures like Japan prioritize collective identity, which can sometimes limit entrepreneurship, but excel in implementing innovations. While individualistic societies may lead in radical innovations, collectivist cultures are often better at executing and refining ideas. Both cultural approaches, individualistic and group-oriented, have strengths in fostering innovation, highlighting the diversity in paths to success across societies. Social stratification is a universal feature of societies, organizing individuals into hierarchical social categories based on factors like family background, occupation, and income. Individuals typically inherit their social status from their family, impacting their life opportunities. Those in higher strata often enjoy better education, health, living standards, and job prospects compared to those in lower strata. Societies vary in the degree of mobility between social strata and in how they value social strata in business contexts. 4 fundamental principles underpin social stratification. 1. Social stratification is a societal characteristic, not indicative of individual disparities. 2. Social status tends to persist across generations. 3. Although prevalent everywhere, social stratification varies across societies. 4. Social stratification encompasses not just inequalities, but also societal beliefs and perceptions. Social mobility refers to the ability of individuals to move between social strata. It varies across societies, with the most rigid system being a caste system, where one's social position is determined by birth and cannot change. Though the caste system is diminishing, it still influences rural India despite being officially abolished in 1949. In contrast, a class system allows for mobility, where individuals can rise or fall based on their achievements or luck. In the United Kingdom, the class system has historically been more rigid, with clear divisions between the upper, middle, and working classes. Social mobility was limited, particularly in the upper class, where private education reinforced class separation. In China, social mobility was restricted under communist rule, but reforms have led to an emerging class system based on urban occupation rather than rural-urban divides. In the United States, the class system is less rigid than in the UK, India, or China, with greater mobility. Social class is more influenced by individual economic achievement than by background or schooling. American society highly respects individuals who rise from humble beginnings, particularly successful entrepreneurs like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk. From a business perspective, social stratification can significantly impact operations. In highly mobile and individualistic societies like the US and Japan, class background has a minimal effect on business. However, in countries with less mobility, such as the United Kingdom and India, class consciousness, where individuals perceive themselves based on their class, shapes interactions between management and labor. This has historically led to antagonism and industrial disputes in the UK, though disputes have decreased in recent decades. countries with strong class divisions face challenges, as antagonistic relationships raise production costs and hinder global competitiveness. Examples include the economic slowdown in China, Brexit-related struggles in the UK, nationalistic tendencies in the US, and the caste system in India. These current issues require strategic planning by businesses operating in or with these nations. Religion is defined as a system of shared beliefs and rituals related to the sacred, while ethical systems are moral principles that guide behavior, often rooted in religion. Major religions like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism have significant influence worldwide, with Confucianism shaping ethics in parts of Asia, although it is not a religion. The relationship between religion, ethics, and business is complex. Scholars suggest religions may shape attitudes toward work and entrepreneurship, but it's difficult to generalize this impact. Research by economists Robert Barrow and Rachel McCleary found that strong religious beliefs, particularly in the afterlife, can positively influence economic growth by promoting productive behaviors. However, others argue that sound economic policy, rather than religion, is the key driver of growth. Language serves as a core aspect of cultural identity and communication, influencing how individuals perceive the world. In countries with multiple languages, such as Canada and Belgium, language differences can lead to cultural divisions and tensions. For instance, the Basque-speaking minority in Spain and the Greek and Turkish-speaking populations in Cyprus have sought independence due to cultural distinctions. English, Mandarin, and Hindi rank among the most spoken languages globally, with English emerging as the primary international business language. While English facilitates global communication, understanding local languages can foster better relationships and business outcomes, as seen in examples like Sunbeam Corporation's Stick mishap in Germany and General Motors' renaming of the Chevrolet Nova in Puerto Rico. Such instances underline the importance of language comprehension for successful business operations and cultural sensitivity in international markets. Unspoken language, or nonverbal communication, encompasses various cues such as facial expressions and gestures. For instance, raised eyebrows signify recognition, while a smile indicates joy. However, many nonverbal signals are culturally specific, which can lead to misunderstandings. For example, the OK gesture in the US is a friendly sign, but is considered vulgar in Greece and Turkey. Similarly, the thumbs-up gesture is seen as offensive in Greece. Personal space is another critical aspect of nonverbal communication. Americans typically prefer a distance of 5 to 8 feet during business discussions, while Latin Americans are comfortable with 3 to 5 feet. This difference can cause North Americans to feel their space is being invaded, while Latin Americans may perceive retreating as aloofness, hindering effective communication and rapport. Okay, now education. Formal education is crucial in society, serving as the primary means through which individuals acquire essential languages, knowledge, and skills. It complements family efforts in socializing youth into societal values and norms, both directly and indirectly. Schools teach basic societal and political facts, as well as citizenship responsibilities, while cultural norms such as respect, obedience, and punctuality are conveyed through a hidden curriculum. From an international business standpoint, education significantly influences national competitive advantage. A skilled workforce is vital for a country's economic success, as seen in Japan's post-war recovery, where a well-respected education system produced a large number of trained engineers and a competitive primary and secondary education focused on math and science. This educational excellence is a key factor in Japan's economic achievements and influences international businesses' location decisions. The general education level of a country also informs market potential and marketing strategies. For example, in a country with high illiteracy rates, traditional written promotional materials may be ineffective, making pictorial promotions a better choice. For multinational corporations and companies operating across various countries, understanding how a society's culture impacts workplace values is crucial. Management processes and practices must adapt to these culturally determined work-related values. For instance, differing values in countries like Brazil compared to the United Kingdom or the United States versus Sweden necessitate varied management approaches. Geert Hofstede conducted a significant study on culture's relation to workplace values, gathering data from over 116,000 IBM employees across 50 countries. He identified 5 key dimensions of culture: power distance, uncertainty avoidance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, and long-term versus short-term orientation. The latter informed by the Chinese Values Survey developed by Michael Harris Bond. Hofstede assigned index scores from 0 to 100 to each dimension, maintaining consistent company influences to isolate cultural differences. Recently, a 6th dimension called indulgence versus restraint was proposed by Hofstede in collaboration with Michael Minkoff, distinguishing societies that allow for free gratification of human drives, indulgence, from those that regulate these drives through strict norms, restraint. While the original 4 dimensions and the 5th are widely accepted, the 6th dimension remains a subject of debate among scholars. Hofstede's research highlights general cultural differences, aligning with common perceptions, such as the belief that Americans are more individualistic and egalitarian than the Japanese, who are, in turn, more so than Mexicans. Latin cultures are often seen as emphasizing masculinity more than Scandinavian countries, while East Asian nations like Japan score high on long-term orientation compared to the US and Canada. However, Hofstede's findings face criticism. He assumes a direct link between culture and nation-states, ignoring the presence of multiple cultures within a country. His research may also be biased, as it involved a predominantly European and American team assessing IBM employees, potentially influencing the questions and interpretations. Additionally, his informants were from one industry and company, which could skew the results. Building on Hofstede's work, the Globe study examined 62 societies and established 9 cultural dimensions, while the World Values Survey, WVS, spans over 100 countries to explore values, norms, and their societal impacts. Though culture significantly influences a nation's economic success, it is just one of many factors. While Hofstede's framework remains foundational in studying work values and business, newer frameworks like Globe and WVS are gaining traction and may enhance or complement his findings regarding work-related values and business dynamics. The last slide we have is cultural change. Culture is a dynamic entity that evolves over time, with societal values shifting gradually but profoundly, exemplified by the increasing presence of women in top corporate roles in the US and a trend towards greater individualism among Japan's newer generations. Economic progress and globalization are key drivers of societal change, often leading to a transition from collectivism to individualism in wealthier societies. While there is a notion of cultural convergence towards universally accepted norms, counterforces such as Islamic fundamentalism and nationalist movements challenge this trend. Material symbols change rapidly, but core social values transform slowly, contributing to persistent cultural differences globally, emphasizing the necessity of understanding both surface-level cultural aspects and deeper societal norms.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to channel.